Very first chapter is the foreword by Dr. Willie Jolly. I got to say that first. Hall of Fame speaker, Dr. Willie Jolly. He is one of my mentors. He's been a friend for years. He lives here in the Washington, D.C. area with me. And so we're able to connect and really work on, well, I can not work on each other because he's a Hall of Fame speaker. He helps me get better on a regular basis and see things that perhaps I haven't seen before. So for him to be willing to pour out and do my forward is a blessing. But also, he's got a best-selling book, A Setback is a Setup for a Comeback. And it's along the same lines that you don't have to get stuck in your situation and your circumstances. So since he was already on that vibration and I was on that vibration, it was not hard for him to say, boom, I got the forward for this, no problem. So it starts off with his encouraging words, which I greatly appreciate. Then I begin to talk about your mind, because again, your mindset dictates how you look at things, how you see things, the perception and perspective in which you take. Are you looking at something as though it's high? Or are you looking at something as though it's low? Are you eye level with it? I mean, just everything. Your mindset will dictate anything. And Henry Ford said it best, you know, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Because your mind will tell you you're right. And so regardless of what reality is, your reality will always be what your mindset believes it is. Period, paragraph. And so once we get our mind together, then our eyes will begin to see differently. We'll be able to clear our vision. All the stuff that's going on in life. I'm sick, my family member's tripping, my spouse is tripping, I lost my job, my money ain't well. All this stuff begins to pile up on your vision and you just cannot even see clear to be able to realize that hope is a little further along, that the breakthrough is a little further along because your vision is so clear. So once you get your mind to say, okay, you know what, we can do this, I got this, then your vision will clear and you'll be able to see the pathway to actually being able to make that thing happen. So once you go from your mind to your sight, then we got to take care of that mouth, because we can say some things that put us right back in the snare that we just got freed from. So we get our mind right, I can do this thing. We see how it's possible to do it. And then we say, but I can't. Oh, man, you just set a bomb off in your entire ability to be prosperous and go in a completely different direction than the challenges that you were facing a minute ago, simply because of your language. There's a language to success. And so I talk about that in the book. And throughout this book, there's exercises, there's opportunities for you to actually put your thoughts down, to identify the places that held you up. What are some of the weak words that you've used as opposed to some of the strong words? It's interesting how I hear some people, when they pitch their book, they're like, I'm sure, I think you're gonna love it. I think it's something here for, think, do you know or not? Did you write it? Is it something for me or not? Like, you know, the language of somebody who's successful is going to be that is affirming, that is positive, that's confident. This is something you need in your life. This is something that will help change you. I'm telling you, this book is something that will transform your life. I know that to be so. Even if you feel like you're not in the darkest place right now, you need this book on your shelf for when you are, so that you can refer to it and go through it and find those principles and strategies that will help you through it when you get to that point. And you can pass it on to somebody else who you know is challenging, because your friends are coming to you with their issues. I know that I know. That's strong language. And fortunately, I know I can back that up too. But I'm not going to say, I think this book will be a blessing to you. No, I know this is going to help your life, period. And so once we control the thoughts in our mind and we're able to see clearer, we've got to make sure that the words that we say and the language that we use is conducive to our success as well. And then we begin to set up actual strategies. How are we going to execute this thing? What is this thing that we're trying to execute? There's so many people out there chasing success and they don't even have a definition of what that is for them. What does that look like? What does success mean? Because if you don't have an understanding or a definition of what that is for you, then how will you know you ever attained it? How will you know if you're off course? How will you know if there's a hole that needs to be filled to be able to get that thing if you don't even know what that thing is? So it's important to set a strategy, to create a strategy for whatever area you're trying to reset. But in the book, I talk about just designing the entire life that you want, because it's not going to come by happenstance. Nobody's going to knock on your door and say, hey, here's the life you want. You said you wanted $1 million. Here's $1 million. You said you wanted a spouse tall, dark, and chocolate. Here he is. None of that's going to happen. You've got to design the life you want deliberately, through choice and deliberate action. You just consciously, this is what I want, and this is the effort and language and mindset and vision that I'm going to have to achieve it all. And so then I go into a paragraph, which is kind of where I'm going to settle here. There's 2 other paragraphs. One is gather your tools. You want to make sure you have the right tools to build that life that you actually want. But then there's also find your community, so that you have the support system around you and the people who can support you as you move forward in your goals. And then just general encouragement, don't quit. But there's one chapter in here that is actually the basis for a certified coaching program that I've designed and am designing around it. It's called the CEO theory. And there's something in science called homeostasis. Homeostasis simply means balance, right? If you feel sick, I feel down, I feel weak, I'm tired today, it usually means that your body is not in homeostasis. Something's out of balance. Maybe you don't have enough fluid in you. Maybe you've got too much salt in you. Maybe you've got too much weight on you. It's something that's out of balance. Maybe your vitamin D is low. You haven't achieved homeostasis. It's just a scientific term in general. If you look out in the world, why is this particular plant dying off? Because something's out of balance. Maybe there's a predator that has eaten up all the things that usually help keep it fertilized. It's homeostasis is something we should all attempt to achieve, balance. And so CEO stands for choices, education, opportunity. The theory is that when those 3 things are in balance, you have achieved success in your life, in any area of your life. If any one of those things are out of balance, then your success has been compromised. Period. So if you look at choices, for example, we can make good choices or we can make poor choices. Notice I didn't say bad choices. There are no such thing as bad choices. There are simply poor choices that didn't work towards the goal that you said you wanted to achieve. And prayerfully, you have an opportunity to make a good choice next time that will work towards your goal. Your choices, however, will determine whether or not you are capable of achieving the things that you say you want to do. Your choices will also reveal some things about your personality. Do you let fear dominate you? Goes back to your mindset. And you won't make a choice to jump when you should, probably. You won't make a choice to exhibit restraint and pull back when you need to. And perhaps another situation will dominate and take over, or another person or entity will dominate and take over when it shouldn't. Talk about sales, maybe you need to step up and be more assertive and not allow the customer just to shut you down every daggone time they see you. Maybe you have to figure out a better way to encompass your thoughts so that it's quick and it's hit and they can get it and see the revelation quickly and not have to shut you down. But the fear, you make the choice to step back. I'm just going to keep emailing this person. I don't ever want to really call them or talk to them. They intimidate me. Let me just keep emailing, knowing they're not reading your emails either. I mean, choices, just choices. If we don't make good choices that lead towards the goals we say we want in our lives, choices that to meet people, to connect with people, choices to go back to school, choices to stop hanging with people who aren't of like mind. If we don't make good choices, then we aren't able to achieve our goals. Education, there's 2 types of education. There's traditional education, which unfortunately, the American society, at least, that is what we gauge everything by. Did you go to school? Did you get a degree? Did you get a diploma? Do you have this certification? We kind of gauge and measure success by this traditional form of education. But then there's also non-traditional education, mentors, and people who tutor you, people who you perhaps follow and shadow to just get information from. There's books, there's webinars, there's mastermind groups, there's all types of methods and ways to continue learning forever. And my theory is just the second you stop learning, that's when you stop growing, period. And if you stop growing, that's when death takes over. It just does. You don't want to stop learning. You have to become a lifelong learner and break down the walls of what you think education is, because if you don't, then there could be a 12-year-old standing in front of you that can give you the key to your success by explaining just this one thing to you. But that's just a kid. I don't need to listen to them. Now you make a poor choice to ignore an educational opportunity because you didn't see it as somebody who had value to offer you because they were young, for example. So our education, we have to be in a posture of being a lifelong learner so we can continue to grow in whatever area it is that we're trying to change or be successful in our life. And then our opportunities. There's multiple types of opportunities. There's opportunities that are granted to you. Perhaps you have the education and somebody says, come get this job. But then there's opportunities that you create for yourself. And that is what will more times than not be what you can sustain because that's what you have control over, right? In 2008, I was working in a #1 market, running a radio station in New York City, and the Great Recession hit. Now, I'm thinking, well, this is never going to end, right? I'm going to run this radio station. I done made it, market 1, I'm good. Yeah, we never think stuff is going to end. And unfortunately, I was out of a job. And I soon became divorced. And my weight shot up. And I was sick. And like the house of cards came tumbling down. And, you know, I really needed a reset. And I tell my story in this book. I really needed a reset. How am I going to come back from this thing? I mean, I was able to live. I made enough money from Market 1 to live off my severance for almost 2 years. And then I was in depression and I just couldn't see my way clear that I never got up and figured out how to work during that year or so. And eventually that money ran out and I found myself on food stamps. In a city, I didn't have any family. I have a child that is looking at me for answers and provision, and you know, she still needs clothes for school. She's on these activities. She still needs money. All that stuff had to happen. Had to figure out a way to happen. It wasn't going to happen in 2008 because nobody was looking for a new program director, right? Nobody's looking for the whole industry, and the whole industry shut down. Said, you know what? For these 60 markets that have morning shows, we're going to put one guy over it and syndicate them down to all 60 markets. So those 59 people would never get their jobs back. So nobody was looking for me. It's not like, oh, the market will pick up and I'll get a new job. It wasn't happening. I had to figure out how to reset my life. And that is the thing that drives this book. I learned from that so much so, fast forward to 2020, right? We've got a global pandemic that has shut the economy down and entertainment took its hit. I lost my radio job again, Washington, DC, this time, lost my radio job. And when I lost it, I was at such peace, because I had already told people, you can already see that the industry is changing and everything that we understand to be so for traditional radio, it's just not going to be so. Anybody with a telephone and a microphone can have their own radio show as a podcaster or anything. So we know, anybody who's paying attention knows that my industry is becoming quickly, is changing or becoming obsolete. Not sure which one it is, but I was already making a transition. In addition to already making that transition, I have multiple streams of income. So when this 2020 pandemic hit and I lost that job, I was like, okay, let me hurry up, put this book out real quick. Let me go ahead and make sure these online courses are set up right. Let me go ahead and make sure that my coaching clients are straight. They can't afford me right now. They lost their job too. No problem. Let's continue to provide value for them because they're going to remember that when they get back on, and they're going to tell their folks, let's make sure that everything continues to move forward. And so I was able to learn from my past, and I was able to apply that to this future and create more opportunities for myself. So as you look at any area of your life that you want to reset, look at any area of your life where you're stuck, look at any area of your life where you're not producing what you feel like you should be producing, you need to be able to look at your CEO and see where the imbalance is. And so by the end of this year, I'll be certifying life coaches in the CEO method, because there are so many coaching programs, and what they focus on are personalities, DISC assessment, Myers-Briggs, I'm not sure which way it goes, but they focus on the personality of the person so you can see who's in front of you from a personality perspective, and then approach them that way. This person is very analytical. Let's approach them this way. This person deals with conflict this way. Let's approach them this way. That's great. Once you approach them and once you understand how they think, you still got to give them a strategy for being able to figure out where the issue is and how you're going to fix it. So when you lay flat, your CEO, your choices that you've made, the education that you've made, that you've encountered or continue to acquire, and the opportunities that have been granted to you or that you have created for yourself, you're able to see where the issues are. Think about it. Take a moment and think about anybody, maybe anybody in your life, not you just yet. We're going to do you in a second. Think about somebody in your life who you know is stuck. I know somebody's come to you with their issues or ask for advice, or you're stepping back looking at a family member from afar just wreck their life. Think about it. Now, think about, was it a choice they made? Are they missing some education that can help them create more options for themselves? Have they been shut out of opportunities or haven't looked to create their own? I guarantee you can point out multiple things, or at least one thing, that if they shore up just that piece, it'll put them in a better position. So now, think about yourself. Part of the things that I talk about in the choices section is accountability, because we don't want to be accountable. We don't want to look at ourselves. And when we look at our choices honestly and seek to get the wisdom of how we can do better, that's when you're being accountable. When you look at your choices and begin to blame somebody else, you get nothing out of that situation. And in the book, I talk about my marriage. There's plenty I can say. My ex-husband did this. My ex-husband did that. It's my ex-husband. But guess what? I chose him. That was my choice. That was my choice. And if I'm going to be able to learn from this scenario and go into the next relationship better and more a whole person, healed and everything, I've got to look at myself and be accountable and say, why did you choose him? What was it about him that made you feel comfortable? What was it about him that worked for you? What was it about him that did not? Why did you make that choice? Nobody forced you to the altar to get married. You chose. Now I'm being accountable. Now I can get wisdom from that situation. Now I can get things that I can apply to the next scenario. So now think about yourself. Think about an area that you're stuck in. You can close your eyes if you need to. Think about a place where you're stuck. Think about a place where you know you can be better. You know you're not where you're supposed to be. You know you're not even where you said you wanted to be. Okay? Think about that place. Maybe you got so stuck that you just gave up on it and was like, you know what, forget it. Maybe you started a book. Maybe you started a weight loss journey. Maybe you started to get out your shell and go hang out some more, but you still can't seem to find success in relationships. Think about that area of your life where you need a reset. Now, scan through the choices that you've made that put you in that situation. Think about how you could have made a different choice that would have turned the whole thing around. Maybe you show great decision-making skills, but you're lacking the education. Like, you never asked somebody, how do I get that business license? Like, where do you get classes to go get that high school diploma? Who do I even ask about getting into a mastermind group? Look at your education. Maybe you make great choices. Maybe you've got the education to back it up, but you just haven't had any opportunities. Look at your opportunities. Is it because people shut the door on you and nobody's granting you an opportunity? Are there just no opportunities available? The market's kind of dry right now. Maybe it's reinventing itself and you need to think about the opportunities of the future. Or maybe you can take the 20 years or 30 years that you've been doing something on this particular job and realize you're an expert and create your own opportunities. Span your life. Think about it. Think about it. I know this book will be something that can help you. I know it's more than a book. It's a tool that if you follow the exercises, if you actually use it and work within it, you'll come out with so much more knowledge and awareness of yourself, of the things that have been contributing to your success, or to your lack of success in any area of life, business, finance, your physical and fitness body, your wellness. So I strongly encourage you to go to denisehill.com and grab your copy. There is also a life coaching group course that I have online that includes the ebook of this for free. So denisehill.com has all that information. I know that this will bless your life if you give it a shot. It's a tool, but you gotta use a tool, right? You gotta use it. I can give you a hammer, but if you never hit a nail, it's not gonna help a thing. So that's Control Alt Delete, how to reset your life.